Naomi and Ruth were back on the outskirts of Bethlehem during the barley harvest. And as per the instructions by Naomi, Ruth had gone out and tried to acquire sustenance for them by harvesting behind the men and the other women in the fields. And she had picked a field that happened to be owned by a man named Boaz, who was a relative of her departed father-in-law. She worked hard. In each day she brought home an omer of food for both herself and Naomi. And Naomi saw how wonderful her daughter was. Hard-working, honest, caring, loving, and she was building a good name for herself. And this did not go unnoticed among the people that were doing the harvesting, and especially Boaz, who had watched her and asked who she was, and he knew of the things and the kindness that she, Ruth, had shown to Naomi through all their travails, and the oath that Ruth had given Naomi about her people being her people, and wherever Naomi went, Ruth would go, and Naomi's God would be her God, and where she died, they both would be buried in the same land. And Boaz's respect and admiration for this woman, this Moabite woman, grew and grew. He told his people who worked for him in the fields, allow this woman, Ruth, to pick what she wants. Do not bother her. Treat her with respect, because yet she deserves this respect, for she is a righteous woman. And she has a Shem Tov. She has a good name. And Boaz went to Ruth and said, please come, sit in the tent with us and eat with us. And this she did. But before she did, she got instructions from Naomi, and Naomi told her to go and make herself close to Boaz, because Boaz was a good man. Now Boaz became merry with wine, and after he had had his full of eat, and everyone else, including Ruth, had, he fell asleep in his tent. And there in his tent, Ruth uncovered his feet, as was the custom. And in a very real sense, Boaz's souls were revealed to Ruth. And Boaz woke up in the middle of the night, and there, amazingly, there was a woman in his tent, this woman, Ruth. And he whispered to her to stay the rest of the night, for she is a good woman, but leave before the sun rises, so that people will not talk about her. And this indeed is what she did. And she went and talked about the evening with Naomi, and Naomi was very pleased and very happy. Now, back in that day, there was a wonderful custom called the redeeming relative. And this was a relative who, if something happened in your life, such as what has happened with Naomi and Ruth, where their husbands had died and they were in need of sustenance and a home, the redeeming relative would indeed take care of them. And this is what Boaz wanted to do for Ruth. But there was a man in Bethlehem who was first in line to be their redeeming relative. And he wanted to be the redeeming relative of Ruth because Ruth had such a wonderful name. So Boaz came to him in the square where everyone was gathered around in Bethlehem and said, I hear that you want to be the redeeming relative of Ruth. And the man said, yes, indeed. She is a wonderful woman. Honest. A real tzaddik. And Boaz said, good for you. I think that's a good thing. But you do realize you also have to be the redeeming relative of Naomi as well. And this gave the man a second thought because he was not that well off and he could not afford to take them both under his roof. So he said, you, Boaz, you take them. You be their redeeming relative. And as the custom was, in front of witnesses in the square, to sign the contract, they exchanged leather shoes, because that was the currency back then. Which is why to this day, on Yom Kippur, because leather shoes were currency, we do not wear leather shoes. We abstain from having any type of currency or business matters on Yom Kippur, so we do not wear leather shoes. And that is how Boaz became the redeeming relative of both Naomi and Ruth. Ruth and Boaz were married and they had many children. And their children had children, and so on. And Boaz's great-grandson and Ruth's great-grandson was destined to become David, king of Israel. Enjoy Shavuot, Chag Sameach. May you always strive to have a good name, and may everyone in your family take great pride in the good name that you create for yourself. Shalom.